wouldn't be appropriate to start this without a story, and the story starts here. Uh, Paul Revere, I wouldn't expect you guys, all of you, to know anything about American history, but Paul Revere is one of the people in American history that is really well known, as primarily during the fight for independence that the United States had. What's interesting is if you asked an American, they'd say, "Oh yeah, I know Paul Revere." He rode through the streets of the East Coast yelling, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" warning of an oncoming battle. What's interesting about the history is there were two other people who did the exact same thing. The gentlemen's names were William Dawes and Samuel Prescott. Nobody, well, very few people, probably less than 0.5% of people know these people. They did the exact same thing. In fact, what's interesting about it is Samuel Prescott has been, historians have said, he actually did a better job. He was faster, he got there earlier, and the message was delivered. What's ever interesting is everybody remembers Paul Revere. Why? Now, when you go read about the history, they remember Paul Revere because he was known before that to be a great communicator. He was known before that to be a great orator. He was known to do that. So when he rode through the streets of Boston yelling, "The British are coming," people remembered him, and they didn't remember these other two. It's just as I look at the history, as so this is me as a corporate storyteller. My background is in computer science. And here's what I learned as a technologist. You can have the greatest idea in the world, and if nobody else hears it or you can't communicate it to others, that idea is worthless. That's a problem. You see, all of you on the phone, you have great ideas at some point. And what I've been working on for about the last 18 years of my life is not only having ideas, but communicating those ideas. So people, when they see this title, I'm a corporate storyteller with a firm, Articulus, they see that and they say, "Oh, well, you probably are one of these people who've made films or something." No, I'm a technology person. And I spent a lot of time doing deep technology, and I've had to learn how to take that technology and communicate it to other people. So now for about the last 18 years, I work typically with technology companies on communicating their ideas, whether it be internal or external. So that's me. I've worked with a variety of companies around the world. Now, when I was thinking about, what do we want to get done on a Saturday morning? I don't know if any of you are other time zones or Saturday afternoon. I some of you might want to become one of these, I like how, Manov calls it a tribe, right? You want, people around you and listening to you and tribal. And certain parts of the world, storytelling is renowned for that reason. Others of you might have heard or might actually listen to or read books about storytelling from more of a theatric point of view. You listen to these people who put together films. You listen to these people who write books, and they do storytelling. And then there's the people who want to be professionals, right? You watch the Steve Jobs of the world. You watch these people in your business life, and you say, "I want to be them," or "I myself want to excel in business and be a storyteller." Look, I mean, I've read a bunch of stuff. They're all coming from different points of view. I'm going to try to boil this down to three things that we can actually think about today. Okay, so I'm not going to give you some of the things that are sort of esoteric from different sort of points of view. I'm going to say, if you want to tell the story, here are some of the basics. Number one, always put yourself in the audience's shoes. Stories aren't for you. Storytelling is for the audience. You have to know who they are, who this person is, what they want. I know everybody tells you that. You'd be shocked at how often I find people don't know. And then when I see this word story, here's the way I always think of it. When you say story, you're sitting over here on this side and you're communicating your story. Your story is actually coming through three primary mechanisms. Mechanism number one is message. Message is what you're trying to say. Mechanism number two is media. Media, now I use that word media. In a lot of companies, that means PowerPoint slides. But what it means is what you, in addition to the message, what do they see? What do they hear? What do they touch? What's the media they're using to absorb this? And the last one is a special version of media, a person. And what happens is when you say, I want to tell a story, or when you say, I want to communicate an idea, or when you say, I want to do a presentation, these three things have to come together simultaneously, and that's what the audience perceives. And what's interesting is when you start to study sort of storytelling and what to do there are people who would attack this differently. Some people, you'll talk to visualization experts. It's all about the slides. It's all about the visuals. You'll talk to filmmakers and all that. And then there's the people who will coach you and say you need more presence. You need you need gravitas. You need all these things. And I agree with that. And message first. Look, a basic of storytelling is you have to know what you want to say before you get there. What are you trying to say? What's your message? What are you communicating? This is what I call the what you want to say. These other two, I'm going to call this the how you say it. You have to know what you want to say before how. Too many people, too many communicators put, to use a colloquialism, put the cart before the horse. They start putting together their slides before they ever strategically think about what they want to say. So, lesson one for today, and trust me, I have to always keep this front of mind, even though I've done this for a long time. Message first. What do I mean by message first? The first thing we're going to work on is message, then media, and then person, and then, let me go back one slide. The only time that you will ever see these three things happening simultaneously is when you practice. Now, I'm not going to put that as a separate lesson today. I could spend, hours on that topic, but it's putting together your message and then your media, and as a person, you practice it, and that's how you delight the audience. Okay? So, thought number one today, message first. I'm going to use the word presenting. Why are you telling the story? Why are you presenting? Why are you communicating in general? Okay, so I'm going to use the word presenting to be a surrogate to all those ideas. When I think about this, I travel the world. I work with a lot of different companies, and I see different types of presentations. Some are informational, some are explanations, and some are persuasive. Now, what I mean is, informational, I'm trying to make sure they have the information. Explanation, I want them to understand. Persuasive, I want them to make a decision. These are very different types of presentations. Now, this triangle here is going to represent the importance of content in the communication. What do I mean by that? Here's what people do. If you're doing an informational presentation, you better have complete, accurate, comprehensive information. If you're doing an explanation, okay, well, they actually have to understand it. And persuasive, you'll notice there's not as much content because I'm going to draw this triangle. And this triangle represents the importance of message and messenger. What I want you to watch as you go through the next, let's say, month, watch how people who are very persuasive, they don't have a lot of ideas. They have one, two, three, and they're really, really good at putting together the message for those. They put it together in a persuasive way. And so today, it's a Saturday. Some of you may actually take some cycles to watch TV. If you watch TV, I want you to watch some of the commercials. As you watch some of the commercials, now what are they doing? They're meant to be very persuasive. Some are, some aren't. So let's just not argue about good commercials versus bad, but they have 30 to 60 seconds. And you notice how some of them are very good at putting the message together. Their visuals are excellent, those types of things. And then there's others who aren't. Start looking at these and saying, those that are really good are good at messaging and being the messenger. Now, why do I say this? Why are you presenting in the first place? Why are you telling the story in the first place? What are you there for? Here's the trap of business. Business people fall into the trap of doing informational communications. They think that it's just good enough to show up and give some information. It's not. It's a waste of time. If you're going to be an informational presenter, just go send an email, print out the document, hand it to them. Now, we can have a lot of discussion about this. Don't fall in the trap of thinking I'm going to go give information. And don't have time to get into, and you need information to make sure you're persuasive, right? You can put together information in a persuasive way. But if you fall in the trap of doing an informational presentation, look what you're going to do. You're going to spend all your time making sure all the content's on the slide. You're going to make sure that everything is communicated. You're going to have 85 words on a slide, if not more. You're going to have 95 slides that you're going to communicate. And you are going to be complete and comprehensive in your content, and it's not going to get the results you want. So when I coach people, the first thing I ask is, why are you presenting? What are you trying to achieve? Are we trying to get a decision? Are we trying to get understanding? And if people are truly falling in this informational trap, I either A, try to pull them out, or B, just, I don't need to coach them, because I just say, dump all the information in, be comprehensive. Fair enough? So let's move beyond the informational. Let's be more persuasive. Let's create understanding. If you are there as a person, do you realize person-to-person communication is the most expensive form of communications? Don't waste it just dumping a bunch of information. Now, as you can tell, I've had a little caffeine this morning, so I'm a little amped up. So don't take this as an insult to any of you, but I just want to make you aware of what's happening here. Last one. It's Saturday. It's 10:15. I think I'm supposed to be done by now, but Manav, I have something else to say. Do you want me to end, or you want one more idea?
Go ahead. All yours.
Okay. Last idea here, group. I'm giving you I want you all to imagine in your head that you are going car shopping. Okay? There's no financial bounds to this activity. I will give you all the money you want to pick out whatever car. In your mind, right now, I want you to think of a car that you want to buy. I don't care if so you can write this down, and you might need to write it down, but it could be a practical used car. It could be a sports car. Maybe some of you want to, dream of a Ferrari someday. Some of you may want to be very practical and buy a used, car, whatever it is. Right now, do you have an idea of what car you want to buy? Is it in your head? Good. Now, write down 2 to 3 reasons why you chose the car. Why did you pick that car? Out of the thousands of cars you could have chosen, why'd you pick that one? Write down 2 to 3 reasons, or at least those who don't have a pencil or sitting in a car or something, think of 2 or 3 reasons. Okay, so you have 2 or 3 reasons you're going to buy the car, right? What are your reasons? So somebody, and I know, you can come off mute for a second. Just give me an example of 1 or 2 reasons that you guys chose these cars.
Experience.
Okay, so you have experience with the brand or that car.
Look and comfort.
Okay, look and comfort. Okay.
Power.
Good.
Brand.
Okay. So there's all sorts of reasons. Now here's why I take you through this activity. That car you've chosen, there are lots and lots of features, components, attributes of it. But nobody ever says, I bought it because of the tires. Nobody. I've done this activity hundreds of times, and nobody says, I want it because of the tires. Nobody says, I want it because of the diameter of the cylinders, right? That's something, but the engineers made the diameter really, that was an important part, but nobody buys it because of that. Nobody buys it because of the effectiveness of the parking brake. You see, there are hundreds of possible reasons you could buy. And so when I look at this, I say, look at the slide, right? There are lots and lots and lots of features. But there's only a few reasons why you chose the car. Now, the difference in that visual is critically important. Your job as a communicator is to find the reasons. Now, what do I mean by that? If we're going to move beyond the informational and we're not going to have a ton of content, you're going to have to get good at finding the reasons the audience should take some action. What are the key things they need to know? This is one of the hardest things I coach, one of the hardest things I do. You can't talk about everything. Find those things that are important and do it well. Skip everything else. That's hard. You can do it easily when I put you through the activity for a car, but in reality, that's hard because you as some of you are subject matter experts in certain topics. And so it's really hard to say, what am I going to talk about? What am I not going to talk about? Find the reasons, stick to them, and just realize you're not going to communicate everything. But if we're going to tell a good message, we're going to have to communicate the things we do well. Sometimes you'll hear me say quality over quantity. I want quality communications, not stuff with a bunch of data. So the three things I wanted to cover today were I need you to start really working at finding the reasons. What are those things in my communications that really need to be there? What doesn't? Let's really think about, can I move beyond the informational communications? Let's not fall in that trap. Really think about, why am I here? And the last one is, before you ever start thinking about, what am I going to do when I get there? What am I going to say? I need that message, right? Think about the message. And these other two pieces here, when I think about it, these other two pieces are, find the reasons as a messaging tool. It's an editing tool. And move beyond informational is knowing the intent of the communication in the first place. Really gets back to know your audience and what we're there for. So today, as Manav can testify, I could go on the topic of corporate storytelling for literally 5 days. Okay? You gave me 15 to 20 minutes. If I had to do 3 things, give you 3 pieces of coaching: message first, move beyond informational, find the reasons. That's my experience as a corporate storyteller. You do those things well, you're starting to move the needle in the right direction. So, Manav, I'll hand over to you. I'm happy to take any questions that you guys may have. I've worked in a lot of different type of companies and done a lot of different type of things. Any questions, concerns, anybody that I insulted through this conversation?
No, I think you inspired everybody, but I'll leave the floor open. Anybody have any queries or clarifications or thoughts? Over to you guys.
Hi Tom, Sachin here. Once you select the subject for presentation, how do you prepare for it?
Okay. Let me bring up a whiteboard. Okay. Okay, so you pick the subject. Okay. Before you ever pick a subject, I'm going to go back to first principles here. I tell you, you need to know who your audience is, and you need to know what the outcome is. Okay. Audience, who we're really trying to communicate to. Outcome is what I'm trying to achieve. That's 1. That's 2. Subject is 3. I can't pick my subject till I know those 2 things. Once you pick a subject, then what you do is you pick the subtopics. I'm going to relabel these as, let's call these reasons. Right? I would say I want somewhere between 1 and 4. Okay. Then you start to build your messages, and I'll just put these as circles around those things. Now, there's a lot I do inside of these circles, but what I do first is let's get the structure down. Okay, I'm talking about this subject to these people for this reason, and I have these subtopics, these sub ideas, and then I just start to populate that content there. And there's a lot that goes in there, but in general, that's how I start. That's how I break it down. That's how I organize. This ends up being a little mini agenda done from a strategic way. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the way I start.
Tom, good morning. Good session. Definitely enjoyed it. One question, depending on the audience interest also, you need to cover, the message has to be different. You have to probably only focus on only information, maybe the level of audience. It also change how we present. How do you want to cover that up in these presentation topics?
Okay. I think that's a fundamental that's oftentimes forgotten. I said earlier, audience first, right? That's the first thing. And then you choose your subject. What happens is, depending on your audience, your subject will change. Depending on your audience, the reasons will change. People don't like to do that. You know what some of you might be doing on the phone? You do this. You have what I call the magic deck. And it's like your one set of PowerPoint slides that you use no matter who your audience is. And you build this slide deck over time. Well, here's the thing is, audience drives message, drives media. And your media, some of your media will go, some will change. So you're exactly right. Your audience drives your message, not the other way around. And so if your audience changes, your message will change. I think it's a fundamental. There's lots of contingencies on that, but oftentimes forgotten. Audience first, message second, media third. Okay, thank you. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.